Thank you for attending today's live product demonstration titled Navigate Digital Disruption with VersionOne and SAFe 4.6. My name is Alexandra Garrett. I am the Director of Product Marketing here at CloudNet VersionOne, and I'm the moderator of today's live product demo. In this session, you will learn how VersionOne provides unparalleled support for SAFe 4.6 at all levels of the enterprise, regardless of which configuration of SAFe you use. For questions during the demonstration, please type them into the Q&A box on the right side of your screen. We will collect them to be answered at the end of the demo. One of our expert solution architects, Mark Debian, is here with us today to lead the demonstration and answer any questions you may have. I will now turn the discussion over to Mark, and we will get started with the live product demonstration. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Allie, and thanks everybody for your participation today. As Allie said, we're going to walk through, this is really going to be a follow-on to the SAFe demonstration that we did at the beginning of last month, and we're going to walk through a lot of the different components of SAFe 4.6 and show you really how VersionOne and the VersionOne VS products that we have allow us to really help you navigate this digital disruption. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to start by just going through a few of the slides that we presented last month as well. So one of the big changes or one of the big updates that they did in 4.6, even though I don't think 4.6 was a big change from 4.5, is the ability for us to, one, align to the 5 core competencies of the lean enterprise. And those are the 5 core competencies that we see on the outside of the SAFe model here. And then they changed the model configuration a little bit, so you can just click on the different configurations across the top. So there's different tabs here, and that allows you to go ahead and look at those different tabs from a configuration selector standpoint. And we'll show you how those are configured inside of VersionOne in a moment here. And then there's also a new government icon as well. So many of our government customers are going to the SAFe model or the Scaled Agile Framework model. So this government tab gives you a little bit more information about that and the types of guidance that you can have if you're a governmental organization looking to scale using SAFe. So these are the 5 core competencies, and we're going to walk through a few examples of how VersionOne supports these in a moment here. Where we're going to start is looking at that Lean Agile leadership component of our solution. And in the Lean Agile leadership, and especially in the Lean Enterprise, has been called out recently. This really helps us to support some of those SAFe principles, making sure that we're looking at a lean agile mindset, and then driving different things like making sure the people and the teams have their own development, as well as our ability to track and see where the different career and skills development are within our organization. So typically this might be done outside of an agile planning solution, but I'm going to show you how to incorporate some of those into VersionOne as well. So I'm going to jump now into the VersionOne solution. We're going to go right in and show you a few of the different ways that we can support different levels or models of the SAFe transformation, especially as we're talking about it here with managers inside of a lean enterprise. So the first thing I'm showing you here are some of the different configuration models that you can set up when you go in and configure VersionOne. I'm looking at my planning levels here. Where I'm at is under my home, under my dashboard. And if I'm at the top level of my enterprise, I can see the different types of models that we have. So at the bottom here, this is my essential company. So this is a separate, maybe division of my organization where all I'm going to run is essential SAFe. So under my enterprise level, I'll have my release trains and then my program increments. Typically, if we're doing a trial or a pilot or a free evaluation of VersionOne, this is where you can jump in and start to at least set it up to see how well we support SAFe. And then as you start to grow into, say, a full or a large solution portfolio, then you can expand on that a little bit more. So here's an example of, even within the same instance here, we can have an enterprise version and, full SAFe and portfolio SAFe all running together. This is an example of a full SAFe, and I have my solution layer in here as well, so I can track my release trains and my program increments under a portfolio view. And this is just one example of how we can go in and configure these different levels to support the different planning levels that we'll do as we start to break down and set up the work for you for the different levels that you want to work. In this case, if I had multiple release trains and I would normally have that under here, I'll just create additional release trains at this level. And then under that release train, we're going to create our program increments. I also like this specific dashboard because it allows me to put additional charts on here, and I can put as many charts as I want. So I can put, I can build this out really as my personal dashboard for all the different, release trains or the program increments or even the portfolios that I'm supporting. So you create your own dashboard right in here by adding additional charts. You can reorganize those and you can configure those any way you want to be able to show exactly what you want to see. This really helps you with that lean agile management level. So your managers can come in here, they can create their own views of this, have their own levels, and then within those views, you can even save them or share them out as well. So if you create a management level view, you can share that management level view out with anyone else. And that really helps you to lead that transformation, as well as be a teacher for other team members or managers that want to go ahead and see that information. The other thing that I like to do, and we like to set up when we're implementing this, is create a planning room or a planning dashboard. So in this case, I've got a value stream portfolio level dashboard that I want to go ahead and look at. And this really helps me to see exactly what's going on from a portfolio standpoint. So if I go into that specific portfolio planning room, this is going to show me a couple different views. One is I've got my Kanban level here on the left-hand side, so I can track and manage the flow, in this case, of my features as they go through the different cycles of the SAFe implementation. On the right-hand side, I've got my scorecard, so this is showing me some key information. And this is filtered for my specific portfolio now. So I don't need to click around or go anywhere else. I've got my reporting and as well as my tracking of my work right in here. I can go into my road mapping or my analytics as well, so I can see additional SAFe reports or SAFe details that I want to see, really building out this dashboard for the individual value streams that I want to see, so I can track all of that work as I move through. This is another place where managers or senior level people can go in and set up their specific dashboards or have their dashboards set up for them, so they can go in and track the work that they want to see in a very easy and a single place to go ahead and look at that information. Gives them that visibility to make specific decisions, as well as help the organization by tracking things like blocked work items and planning levels and things that we want to make sure that we're tracking. Unestimated stories is another good one to go ahead and track as well. Some of the key metrics, again, we can look at our burn up, our cumulative flow, other details here on the right-hand side on this specific scorecard, which really helps us to make sure that we're understanding where the operational issues may be, and if we need to improve upon them, we can go ahead and use this as part of the planning that we want to do to make sure that we're moving forward in the right direction. In addition to that, if we do want to track individual members or individual member skills, we can break down the members into individual groups. In this case, I've got different types of skills that my team members are going to be using. Maybe I hear all the time that we have a Java developer deficiency, or we need to hire more, Java developer type roles. You can set up these different groups, and then you can track where those roles are within your organization, understanding which art or which PI those are being used on, and then if we need to go ahead and supplement that either with new hires or maybe with some contract help, we can use this information then by looking at the skills that we're currently using and running something like this member group dashboard report, so we can understand exactly where those people are being used, and then the leaders can help to influence or help to align the people correctly. We can track how well they're doing, are they over allocated, and even managing exactly where they are within our organization. So this is just one way to take the skills that we have, align the skills to the members via member group, and then be able to track them here on something like the member group dashboard. So that's just a couple ways that we can help you to evolve the roles of managers within the Lean enterprise. We've got a lot more that we could look at in terms of the reporting that we can do, but this is just a flavor for how we can start to drive the organization to do better with the data that we have right here within VersionOne. Another big component and changes that were made inside of SAFe 4.6 is our ability to really track and manage it better at the team level, especially when it comes to built-in quality and our ability to track that type of quality. There's been a big influence in the last couple of years on test-driven development and behavior-driven development, as well as in agile testing. So this is an area that VersionOne is very strong in as well, and it really allows us to do things like track quality, but with different types of practices. In this case, the flow of the work. I'm looking at it from a code system and a release quality, as well as an architectural quality level. Behavior-driven development and test-driven development are things that we can then build right into the test cases that we have inside of VersionOne. Here's about as well about collapsing our ability to test the feature sooner. So we're going to collapse down the time that we, when we write the feature, we can actually write the test for the feature. And we can do that in a shorter cycle now. What that allows us to do is then understand if we're going to be hitting the mark with regards to that feature as the stories start to get delivered. There's not a big gap that we need to wait on anymore, and we can track that right inside of VersionOne with a feature with a test at the feature level. Oftentimes these tests might be written in this gherkin model here, the given when then model. This allows us then to read that with a testing solution or testing tool like a Cucumber tool, or we can run that through something like Jenkins, and then we can execute on those tests. So as we look at how we would set that up inside of VersionOne, the first thing I'm going to do is go in and look at my specific specific portfolio item. So here's my epic. On this epic, I've got my business value scores, my time criticality and risk reduction scores, and that allows me to calculate and create my weighted shortest job first number. So this helps us, this weighted score, to decide if we want to go ahead and work on that specific item, or do we want to prioritize that in a different way. In addition to that, at the epic level here, I put some hypotheses out here, and these are my value tests. So I've created a specific type of test, and this is my specific epic value test. In this case, I want to increase my revenue overall, and I want to reduce my overall costs. So when I set up these tests, I can either manually or automatically start updating my actual results right here on the actual results field, and then I can track and see if we're going to be on track to hit whatever value we've aligned or we've assigned to this specific epic in this case. So this is a value test that I put on these specific epics. Now you can set up different types of tests that you want to go ahead and run. You can also update your statuses as well. So in this case, I collect my results and I continue collecting them even like 3 months after all of the work is done, and then we'll go ahead and report on our real actual results. What we've done though here is we've broken down these epics into 2 different features. So on these features, we can drill into the feature itself, and we can set up a different type of a test for that feature level. So as I go down and look at my specific feature, in this case, here's the details for a feature that rolls up into that epic. And on that feature, I have a couple of different types of tests. In this case, we're calling this type a feature test. And on these features, I can set up and I can put my gherkin given when then right in here if I want to make that coding, or if I want to go ahead and manually run these, I can then just do a human readable and make that human readable. Now I can automate this test by going off and kicking this off through Continuum and having Continuum process the Jenkins test and then bring back the results. In this case, we can see those expected results. We expect it to be a 4. Right now it's a 6, so we've automatically failed this test. So we'll continue to run this as the teams are completing their stories, and then when this is 2 plus 2 equals 4, we'll be able to then set that status to a pass, and that's another way that we can then run, make sure that this specific feature and all the tests that we have aligned to that specific feature are passing the tests that we want to do. Once again, this can be manual in this case, where I can come in and just manually update this information, or we can use webhooks, or we can send this over to Continuum, and we can then run these via some sort of an automated test-driven development or behavior-driven development testing solutions, like executing the gherkin code from here. Once all of those tests are passed and we're certain that we can move forward, again, we can do this exact same type of testing and this exact same type of setup down at the test that we have at a story level. So when the teams get down to the story level and the teams start tracking their work, we'll be able to see all of that work down there as well at the team level. One thing that we want to make sure that we're doing as we're tracking that teamwork is, in this case, I've got all my teams here on my program board, is in addition to the tests and completing the features, we want to be able to track all of the dependencies that we have. So certainly we want to make sure that we're aligning the work to the dependencies and then tracking the progress of that work. We can also keep an eye on our capacity to progress as well. So we can use this to show the upstream downstream dependencies on this program board, making sure that all of these teams and the work that we have these teams aligned to across the top are correct. So all of that helps us to then manage and track the work that we're doing at a team level to make sure that we're really watching for our overall team level code quality, our ability to track the dependencies across those teams and manage all of that work as we move forward. I mentioned the DevOps component a little while ago as well. So, as part of SAFe 4.5, they really emphasize much more our ability to do continuous integration and continuous exploration. That part has just expanded even more here as we look at the continuous delivery pipeline and what SAFe calls out now as our ability to do things like integration, exploration, and deployment and release on demand. So as part of that, we allow you, and part of the VersionOne model here is allowing us to track the work as we plan it, but then also start to manage and track that work all the way through execution. So as we're looking at risk and flow and our ability to track that work all the way through, we're able to then do all of that and show things like improving quality through continuous integration, being able to track and manage risk and transaction costs across the continuous deployment cycles, being able to innovate with continuous exploration by tracking what you're doing and making sure that you're using tests and other good techniques to track and manage the work that you're doing, as well as then manage the releases and making sure that you're releasing with quality, as well as you're able to improve upon those releases as you move forward. So these are some of the things that we've integrated in, and we have directly integrated in with our VersionOne VS product as well. The last thing that I'll show here before we jump back in, and I'll show you some examples of this, is really our ability to map and manage this delivery pipeline. So as part of the setup, when we go ahead and start to configure what your delivery pipeline looks like, is we will break down and understand what each of the different phases of your delivery pipeline look like, and then we'll track and manage not just the user stories, but the epics and the features, as well as all of the work across those different pipelines. That allows us to measure the flow and track the risk, and then identify the bottlenecks and the other details that we want to do as we move through that specific pipeline. So what I'm going to do now is show you a few examples of some of those pipelines and how we can go ahead and set up and show that work. So the first thing we're going to look at is one of our flow metrics here. So what this is showing me across the left-hand side here on this first one is all of the work and where that work is for a specific package of work or a specific application of work that we want to go ahead and deliver. In this case, we've got those different flows, and we can see exactly where all of the stories and the defects are. So the darker shaded one here, the red, that's the defects, and then we can see how many stories we have as part of this specific set of versions of work. We're tracking that flow, and we can also track the lead time and how long it takes us on average, and what's the minimum and maximum time it's taking us to flow that work through. This lead time will help us to improve upon that as we make individual changes and even track that work as we move forward. In the bottom level here, we're tracking efficiency. So this allows me to track the difference between touch time and wait time, and that's what this efficiency metric is showing me. So when a story comes into here, how long are we actually processing work, and how long does it take us to process that? And when we're done processing it, how long does it take, how long did it sit there on the shelf, in this case, the wait time, before we moved it along into the next phase? What that allows us to do, let me just change my version here. What that allows us to do is really track the efficiency of a specific version of the work that we're doing, and then we can try to improve upon this efficiency. In this case, we have a very high wait time, so that we wait for a lot of things. Maybe we do a quarterly release or a 6-month release, and maybe that's why the efficiency is so low. But if we can improve upon that, that can help us to have additional throughput, as well as hopefully get more value out to our customer quicker. So that's the type of efficiency that we can look at here as we're looking at the flow and the flow of the metrics as we move through our continuous delivery pipeline. In addition to that, we can also track risk itself. So I know SAFE talks a lot about risk. Here's one of our risk metrics that I like to use. We've got change arrivals here on the left-hand side. So this is saying that, if we have a code freeze right before we go live, we don't want any changes, say, up to 7 days before we go live. And if we see a lot of changes right before we go live, that's introducing additional potential risk because we've done all of our testing, but now we're making additional changes, so maybe that would have introduced some additional risk out there that we want to try to mitigate. In addition to that, we can track rogue commits as well. So when a developer is in and they're doing a commit inside of Git or whatever source control system you're using, those commits can be tracked all the way back to the stories and the epics and features that you're building. In this case, we've got 6 commits, 6 changes that were done in our Teamforge Git environment, and we don't know which user stories in version 1 those are assigned to. So because of that, we want to make sure that we go back and associate these 6 commits to the right stories in version 1. If we don't do that, then we have changes out there that no one knows what they're associated to. And that can introduce some additional risk that we want to try to mitigate and make sure that doesn't impact us downstream as we look down the road for what we're trying to do. In addition to that, we've got risk and value averages and indexes that we can go ahead and use to track that risk and make sure that we're moving forward correctly. Another way we can track that work is by looking at it from a delivery standpoint. So this is showing us the history of all of the delivery for the various different revisions of the work that we've been looking at. We can track things like bottlenecks by looking at average duration. And average duration is going to show us the duration of the work and what's the average based on, if we look past, go back and look at all of our past deployments, what's the average duration or what's the percent in phase for these different areas. So we can try to address something like the 43% of the work on average sits here in performance test. So if we can add another server, if we can put more resources on that specific environment, maybe that will help us to get more throughput through, and we can track that and manage that and make sure that we're trying to do our improvements there. So ultimately, we can reduce our cycle time and make sure that as we're doing future deliveries, we can track and manage that various different cycle time as well. Because we're tracking the work from the first time that it comes through all the way through to the end, we can then go in and we can actually audit some of that work as well. So if you want to generate a report that says, show me all of the different changes that we've done since the time that we did our first merge of the first code all the way through to our release to delivery. This is an example of an audit report. This audit report is auto-generated. I'll just go ahead and kick it off here and run it. And it shows me every change that was made, every user that went ahead and did an approval before we move the different revisions of this, in this case, revision 61, before we move that from acceptance test all the way through to deployment out to the end customer. So by giving us the ability now to see that and understand the exact every single phase and every single activity and control that we went through, we can then use this to make sure that the governance that we want to put in is being adhered to, and that the customer and that the end delivery out to the customer is being met, as well as that we've done all of our due diligence in terms of overrides and the user has gone ahead and done the right approvals as we move that through the different various continuous delivery pipeline phases. So that's looking at the delivery pipeline, understanding how we improve the flow and understand how we can audit that. Just one more piece of that and how we bring that back over to our epics and our features. In this case, we're looking at that same unit of work. So right here, I've got all of my individual user stories here, and this box here represents individual user stories that we have in the various different phases of our continuous delivery pipeline. But now what we're looking at here on the left-hand side is my epic view. So I can see my epic view and my lean business case here, but this is also showing me where all of that work is in terms of delivering that out to our end customer. So we can use this to help improve our flow, to understand where that work is, and then if maybe we have this batch of work here and ready for delivery that's almost all completed, we can decide that we want to go ahead and push this out because that represents 20% of the work, and we want to make sure that we get that work out and we deliver that value out to our end customer. So this kind of view really allows us to track exactly what's going on across a specific delivery for the epic or the feature or the capability, depending upon the level that you want to go ahead and track this. And it really allows us then to maximize our ability to track everything as we're looking at things like this continuous delivery flow and moving that work all the way through the process. We worked very closely with the Scale the Agile team as well when they went through some of the DevOps components of that. So it's nice that we are so well integrated into our ability to manage that delivery pipeline flow. All right, so another new key component or another updated component is our ability to, at the solution level and the lean system engineering level to apply some of those additional lean agile principles and practices. One of them is our ability to update this economic framework and look at a different view of the roadmap for that work, as well as look at the business solution itself and be able to track the lean solution from a business or a large solution level. One of those ways is to be able to operate within your budgets and your guardrails and track all of that work. I'll show you some examples of how to do different levels of solutioning and budgeting in a moment here. But in addition to that, we also want to be able to sequence that. We also want to use weighted shortest job first, which I showed you already, that we calculate for you at the epic capability and feature level if you're using those different levels, and being able to track all of that. And this really helps you to make those different decisions based on these different things. You can put in your guardrails at a budgeting level. You can understand which suppliers you're using and how you want to go ahead and track the work with those suppliers, and then sequence that here with this weighted shortest job first. You can also plan longer term. So if you want to plan at a capability level, if you want to plan at a solution level, we can build those plans right in with your solution roadmap and track all of that work using the road mapping that is integrated right into VersionOne. So let's take a look inside of VersionOne about how we can manage some of that economic framework and track that work as we move forward. So the first thing here again is looking at it from an epic standpoint. We've got our weighted shortest job first. If we want to go ahead and rank all of those in terms of that, so we can go right in here and rank by weighted shortest job first. And this will show me how we want to re-rank the different epics that we have within our solution. If we wanted to, we could rank them all automatically here just by using this specific ranking here, or we can manually go ahead and move them if we want to go ahead and manually move them separately. So that really allows us to track and manage that work as we move it forward. Once we've sorted and ranked all that work, we want to see that on a roadmap, and you can set up different types of roadmaps. This one specifically is a solution view roadmap. So this is showing me the endpoint of when we're going to be delivering on these different capabilities for my solution, and I've got that aligned here on the different dates. These roadmaps can be saved in different views, so I can have a strategy one, I can have a solution one, I can do a feature. You can have any different types of road mapping that you want to go ahead and see, and it'll allow you to track and manage that work here as well. This happens to be the end delivery view of that. I can also go in and see a breakdown of the work here from the capabilities down into my features and track all of that as well as we try to deliver on that work across the specific roadmap. So in this case, this is my reporting capability with all of my features underneath there, and we can align that to our milestones and our program increments that we'll be delivering as well. So this allows us to do that longer term plan, have different levels of road mapping, whether it be at the highest level from a portfolio perspective, a solution roadmap, or in this case, the feature level of that roadmap as well. And this will really help us to drive the current plans and the current execution that we're doing here, or look at things like our solution overall and be able to understand where the different buckets of work are going to be delivered as we look at a bigger plan and understand how we're going to be delivering on all of the promises that we're doing for this year as we're looking at 2019 planning, or even future into down the road if we want to expand this into year 3, year 4 type planning as well. So by using this planning here under the portfolio section, that really allows me to align that work from a road mapping perspective. We're going to look at a few other things here that'll help us to do things like budgeting as well as we walk through a few of those other areas in a moment here. Okay, so the last big section that we're going to cover is our ability to track and manage the lean portfolio. So there have been a couple of nice changes that we've done here, especially for very large organizations. I work a lot with the organizations that are implementing very large solutions, maybe large solution safe, or have that a very wide and big portfolio team or portfolio area that we want to go ahead and track. And this is certainly an area that SAFE has, I think, beefed up very nicely here in 4.6. So our ability to not just have the strategic themes, but align them to a specific portfolio canvas, and then align that canvas to be able to track that work at a value stream level, manage exactly the flow and the risk and the value that we're delivering across those different streams, and really track all of that information. So I think there's been some very nice things that have been updated here. Traditional budgeting is on the left here. Obviously, we want to track specific things this way, but I think there are other options, and we can certainly do lean budgeting within the VersionOne solution, and we'll show you a few examples of that here in a moment. So from a lean portfolio level, our ability to look at things not from a strategic themes level, from a horizon level, from a budgeting level as well, and not just using the traditional budgeting control methods. In addition to that, our ability now to track and manage all of this work on a portfolio canvas and pull up some of that information in and align that from a budgeting perspective. We have the budgets already, put in there. We understand all of the resources in VersionOne, the key activities from a milestone perspective and from a tracking perspective, and making sure that we're on track to manage all of that, as well as bringing in third-party partners and those types of things. Our ability now to put a portfolio canvas here at the portfolio level really allows us to enhance the current solution that we have and really move that forward as we need to. And then finally, our ability to categorize that work across those horizons, make sure we understand what where those planning levels are, align them to the various different levels that we have here, whether it be from evaluating all the way through to retiring, the different work that we're tracking and managing. Really set a goal for that, and then try to achieve that goal as we move all the way through from the initial brand new product to end of life, if we're getting to that point for our specific products themselves. So I'll go back into VersionOne one more time. We'll show you a few more examples of how we can track and manage some of that work. First, from a budgeting perspective, inside of portfolio, we can do different levels of budgeting. We can do that from a strategic themes level. We can use projects and programs to go ahead and do that budgeting as well. So there's lots of different options and ways to do that. This specific budget here is a strategic themes budget, so we're doing it by theme, and you can set the various different levels that you want. So this is a percentage budget by core improvements or this specific strategic theme. If we look at the work that we've completed so far, we're at 9%, and when we complete all of our work, we're going to be at 14%. So we're going to be about 50% short of our 30% goal. So this is one of those ways that we can try to go ahead and make those improvements and try to understand exactly how we can maybe get to this 30% goal, or at least get closer to that specific goal. So this budget, again, is by strategic themes. We can also budget, use another method to go ahead and budget this. In this case, we can do it by planning levels. So in this case, we're doing a different type of participatory budgeting here. We've set a dollar amount, and we're tracking our budgeting here by dollar amount. And we can actually break that down into our portfolio if we wanted to, all the way down to our PIs. We can track how much each PI is either costing us or going to be delivering the work for us. And we can set up those budgets, and we can actually manage and track those budgets as we move through the cycle as well. So we can track the budget amount, we can look at how much we're rolling up, and then we can see how much is remaining on those specific budgets as well. So all of this gives us that ability then to track and have a lean, agile mindset about how we're tracking and managing that work and how we're looking at the budgeting specifically around that. To align this to a canvas, here's an example of just putting the canvas here at the portfolio level. So what I'm looking at is my planning level or my portfolio level, and what I've been doing with the portfolio canvases is really aligning these different fields within here on the canvas itself to the different areas, either within VersionOne, or if it's a link out to another solution, or something that we can track directly right here on this canvas itself. So for something like a budget, I might refer that right into the budget area there. We can track our value streams and identify all of that right here at the portfolio level. So as I look at my dashboard, let me just show you that view here one more time. I'm going to go ahead and put that portfolio detail or that portfolio canvas view right here on my portfolio level, so I can track all of that work here on my portfolio canvas and exactly have that right at my fingertips. In addition to that, we can use the conversation features and the other values, including links and attachments, to make sure that we've got all the details that we need to on the specific portfolio canvas, and then we can enhance that with the lower level detail as we drill down from the highest levels down into the more details within VersionOne. So that's one way we can go ahead and set up the portfolio canvas and track all of that work. In addition to that, we want to go ahead and try to align that work on a horizon. So what I've done is I've taken our existing bubble chart report here, which is a report that allows me to see various different horizons, in this case of work, and I've set up a specific type of portfolio item called an asset class, and these are my horizons. So this is showing me how much work. This is my 15% of my work in the horizon 3, which is my evaluating horizon. I can track how much work is in Horizon 2, or how much I want to be planning into Horizon 2. In this case, 20% of the work should be here in Horizon 2. And then I've got my 60% of my work in Horizon 1, which is my investing and extracting level. And this allows me to track that horizon work and see exactly where I am from an investment standpoint. And then we know that we're going to plan out and have 5% of our work here being in the Horizon 0, which is our retiring horizon. So this is one way to use one of the existing reports that we have. This is called our bubble chart report. And all I did was I went ahead and aligned that work to my horizons. I set up my horizons and aligned them to these different asset classes. And then we're able to then track that work and see exactly how much work we'll plan into each one of these different sections. If I wanted to, I could align them to my strategic themes or some other areas as well, and give me a nice view into that. I like using this report because I didn't have to customize anything. I just needed to go ahead and set up the data correctly, and then I'm able to track that work. And it aligns very nicely to the horizon planning that we saw here, in terms of being able to track where that work is across the different segments of the Scaled Agile framework as well. So that bubble chart really allows us to then use the dimensions and be able to be very easily configured to really align to the SAFE horizon planning. So if our senior leaders want to go ahead and track their work and set up the different variables, in addition to the budgeting that we can do, and we can align the delivery work that we want to do and how we want to plan out our work across these various different horizons as well. The final area that I think was a nice update in SAFE 4.6 is the ability for us to, I think they added a little bit in terms of starting the roadmap of the implementation. Now our services team works very closely with the SAFE team as well, and we follow on this model as we're going through your transformation and our ability to track that work. One of the things that we have, that if you're interested in using VersionOne for SAFE, is our ability to give you various different imports or ways to track and manage the different toolkits that you have. So if you're looking at launching trains, we can help you with a toolkit that says, here's how you can launch your train inside of VersionOne. And that toolkit could be as simple as importing tasks in that allow you to say, here's how I should set up my team. Here's the order that I need to do that, and here's what I need. Here's how I want to train my teams, and just have an easy way to track all of that work, so you understand exactly what it means to move through this process. And we can help you by tracking the work as you move along, and make sure that you go ahead and get the best possible way to implement your SAFE transformation as you move through this various different roadmaps. So toolkits, it was a big discussion when we went and visited the Scaled Agile team in the third quarter last year. That was something that we're working on with my internal team and my services team as well, to make sure that whether you're using a SAFE coach right now, or you want to just do a better job of launching your trains inside of VersionOne, these are the types of toolkits that we can go ahead and work with you on. And it can be just as simple as creating, say, a SAFE implementation level within your PMO organization, importing all of these tasks in, and then you can go ahead and execute on those different toolkits. So if you're interested in that, we can certainly provide that to you as well. So that would just be going under and just doing a simple toolkit import here. And this would import your specific toolkit into here, and then you can track all of those tasks here as as work items, basically inside of your PMO or inside of your solution implementation level, so you can make sure that all of that really is integrated, and it gives you the ability to really track and manage all of that work in a single place. So with that, I think I'm just about at the end. I know I was talking to Allie earlier, and I told her I've got a lot of information to go through, and I'm going to be jumping back and forth. This session is also recorded, so if we don't get to your questions, we'll make sure that we do them as well, and you can always go back and watch the recording, which will be sent to you. So Allie, I think we have a few minutes here left over for questions. So is there anything that jumped out that maybe we can answer?
There is. Thank you for the demo, Mark. The first question is, how do you support communities of practice?
Yeah. So communities is let me just jump on. Let me open up the map here. Oh, I don't have that one in here. So let me go to my safe picture here real quick. Hold on. Let me just show that. So communities. If I can get to that one, go back up to the top here. I think it's very important for any implementation, and specifically around this one, communities of practices here on the SAFE map itself. Inside of VersionOne, we do have communities, and you can go ahead and track and manage those. So if we go over here under topics, you can create your own topics in your own communities, and within there you can go ahead and track and manage them here under collaboration. So collaboration allows us to set up these different communities, and you can have different communities. I encourage a community at the release train level, a community at the team level, and then you can go ahead and pin in those topics to manage and track your communities of practice. So great question. Thanks for that one, whoever submitted that.
Great. The next question is, how do you customize portfolio metrics?
How you customize portfolio metrics. So I might need a specific example of a portfolio metric, but I can tell you just in general, there's a very easy way for you to go in and set your different list types and your values within VersionOne. Again, so if you don't use capability, for instance, or if you want to put something between Epic and capability, you can very easily go in here and track the list types. When you add a configured field or a custom field or this additional list types, those are available in all of the different reports, so you can see all of the details in there. So if you have a specific metric or a field that you want to add in, something like t-shirt size or another way to go ahead and do that, very easy for you to add all of that in here, and then just add that to your specific report. That'll show up in the list of the reports as well.
So the metrics, can it show DevOps progress?
So yeah, yes, it can. Again, there's a couple different ways to look at DevOps progress. I think the biggest one, or the one that we use a lot in the portfolio level, is our ability to track and see what's going on here as we look at all of the work flowing through DevOps. If we go back into the DevOps metrics themselves, we have our existing flow and risk metrics that we can track and see the progress of that as that work is flowing through the process as well. So if there's a specific DevOps metric that you're thinking about, let us know, and we can certainly let you know either if we have that or how that can be created.
You've been talking about SAFE 4.6. Does VersionOne support previous versions of SAFE?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's completely backwards compatible all the way to the initial SAFE 3.0 and even before. There isn't really you don't really have to you don't have to commit to one specific model. I could do a 4.6 model for one part of my organization, and I could still be on 4.0 or 4.5 for another part of my organization, or even use just a straight Scrum team for some of my other teams that aren't even using SAFE. So that's the nice thing about VersionOne is when you configure it and you look at your dashboard, you don't have to just use SAFE models here. You can do other types of organizations and other types of models in here as well.
Great. Well, thank you, Mark, for providing a great demo. I want to thank all of the attendees for your attendance today and interest in CollabNet version 1. And one thing that I want to mention before we close is that CollabNet version 1 works with companies that are at all stages of implementing their scaling agile and safe initiatives. We also offer coaching services and provide product training for all CollabNet version 1 solutions. And if you're interested in learning more, email info@collab.net and we'll be more than happy to follow up with you directly. Have a great day, everyone.